From the Spacebird Media Studios, it's Roxanne and Ace Unlimited. Roxanne and Ace Unlimited, welcome to another show. We're so excited that you're here. Be sure to like this, subscribe, tell your neighbors, share, because we're just so excited about what God's doing. How are you, Ace?
I am doing great. Of course, thanks to my Brothers Cup and Birmingham Mortgage Group for making this week possible. I know that the weekend was kind of heavy for a lot of us in the contemporary Christian music world, or if you were a fan of American Idol. The passing of Mandisa, it hit me. Like, first of all, it happened on my birthday, so I was like, it totally shifted every bit of emotion I had that day. But you and I know this, being in the Christian music world or even radio in general, it's very rare for you to get close enough to an artist that you feel like you knew them. And I can actually only say that not only about our show, but I can say that personally. Like, I felt like I knew her. Like, she was so approachable when you interviewed her. If you were hanging out, like any of those moments, or even when you saw interviews of her, it was really an authentic moment. We got to interview her during the pandemic, and she was just very transparent about how she wanted people to know how much Jesus loved them, and how, skin color doesn't matter, and, and let's overcome the things in our head that keep us from what God is calling us to. And we're going to miss her. Like, it's just, I've been listening to her music pretty much since Friday, and it just continues to move me. And the things that she was saying to everyone else because of her own personal story.
Back when she was on American Idol and Simon Cowell fat shamed her,
Yeah.
and millions of people watched it, and she was able to tell him, I forgive you, but you really hurt me.
Yep.
She's been through a lot and shared that vulnerability. And then the death of her friend, which spiraled for her into a terrible depression. We don't know yet the results of an autopsy to know what happened at 47 years old.
Yeah.
We pray that she had attempted suicide before. We pray that that isn't the case. The loss of her really reverberates with a lot of people who were just so caught up in her vulnerability and her strength, because that woman can sing. I mean,
Yep.
I've been to shows where I was like, we were rocking so hard with her. We were exhausted when we sat back down, because you're not going to sit. You're going to experience Mandisa, because now she comes out and gives it all.
Yeah. Well, and I love the fact that the current season of American Idol this coming week, so if you're watching it, this weekend's show, they're going to do a tribute to Mandisa and her music and her time on the show. So if you are a fan, make sure you're watching that or streaming it, so that way you don't miss it.
A beautiful soul. God really used her life in such a profound way. What is the secret weapon of a confident Christian? Well, one of the things we need to do is be a critical thinker. And that's odd. You think, okay, how do the two of those go together? But Colossians 2:8 says, don't let anyone capture you with empty philosophies and high-sounding nonsense that come from human thinking and from the spiritual powers of this world, rather than from Christ. There's a lot going on in the world that can be misinterpreted. And sometimes I think people take a side without researching what the Word of God says.
Yeah.
And I think the enemy wants to lead us astray. He wants us all fighting tooth and nail, fighting each other, so that he can go about doing what he does, which is stealing and destroying.
Yeah. Well, and that's the whole point of getting into God's word, is so that you can understand it. Don't take another pastor or, even your own parents, opinions or translation of it. Like, while that may be a spark where you're like, that still doesn't make sense to me. Okay, then find the answers for yourself. Go into those who have done their studying homework, or give it in the midst of your conversations with God of, God, what do you want me to take out of this passage or out of this chapter or out of this book, and apply it to your life, and then see it in action. So then you're like, like the big revelation for me years ago, after decades of hearing, that, God will give us the desires of our heart. And, for most of us, we would hear that and go, well, I'm following after God, so he should give me everything I want. right? Like he's Santa Claus. And
Mhm.
that's not my interpretation of that verse. And again, if I'm wrong, he'll tell me. But since I've seen it from the perspective of the more that I am in tune and in love and following and pursuing after Christ, then the desires of my heart are in one with him. So the things that I wanted of this world or of the flesh or of opportunity, I'm like, God, I really want that job, or I really want that relationship to work out. And it was never meant for me. And I, exhausted myself trying to go after it, thinking I was doing it, in a godly fashion when I wasn't even supposed to be in that position or that frame of mind of desire to begin with. So I love the fact that even if I don't necessarily have the things that I thought I would have at my age or, time in my life, I have the things that God intended for me. And the things that are not mine or have gone away, it's because they were never meant to be mine or it was a seasonal thing. So let yourself get into the word so that you know how to put it into action. So then it's not a matter of you talking about passages and Bible verses. You're talking about experience of how God's word and the trueness of it came to life in your own experiences with him and with others.
I find that in the Psalms, especially when David said, I formed you. I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb.
Yeah.
To me, that gave life from conception a very important meaning.
Yeah.
That it should be treasured because we're not an accident and we're planned. And I just remember the first time I ever read that, feeling extraordinarily loved and feeling a clarity on what he would have with the future of a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, you're right. Let's know God's word. It's the truth. And let's lean into it for our knowledge rather than relying on some folks that may want to lead us astray.
Amen.
So I've got a question for you, Ace. Name a woman.
My Tawny, my wife.
Yeah, you won. You did it.
Okay. Whew.
Guess what? There are, millions of viewers of TikToks where men are, and it's hilarious. Women will ask their man, name a woman. And here are the responses: Harriet Tubman, Hillary Clinton, Ruth Ginsburg, Bader, goodness gracious. The Cher.
I mean, that is an easy name to remember.
And they don't name their mother, their wife, their daughter. When you ask, so today, just do it. Just ask a man, hey, would you do me a favor? Name a woman and see what he says.
I mean, I will say, and this is probably a soapbox of mine, I don't like when people in relationships try to make their partner look foolish on social media.
Yes.
I am not a fan of like gags, like the one where the people are like popping balloons full of paint on themselves as they come through the doorway and all. Like, why? Like, I respect and love my wife, and we can joke within each other in the things that are genuinely funny, either about our relationship or about the moment or whatever it is. But it's one of those where I would never do anything to make her look foolish. And that's my only quarry about this particular challenge. I mean, if you want to have fun with it, have fun with it. But I don't know that I would post it, especially if they get it wrong because you get in a fight. I mean, really? I mean, like, we can go into it with good intentions, but it can backfire quickly.
Well, and we go into the story about ways to create intimacy, and shocking your spouse on TikTok is surprisingly not on this list.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, touch. Reach out and touch.
Yeah.
When they go by, I just like to touch Wayne. Oh, he's cute. Oh. I asked God, I said, you know what? I messed up the first time around. So here's the thing. I don't even care if he's good looking, Lord. I want him to love you and to do something decent with his money and be sweet to me. Other than that, I'm not worried about it. But he gave me the icing on the cake. I do.
Well,
when you're strongly attracted to your spouse.
Well, absolutely. And here's the thing. Nothing is sexier than someone who is chasing after God. If you're man, woman, like it doesn't matter on any platform. If you are chasing after God, that is the most attractive feature that you have. I'm just
Oh,
going to say it doesn't matter what dress you're wearing, what color your hair, highlights are. Doesn't matter if the tux is pinstriped or if the fedora is crooked. None of that matters. Are you chasing after God? That's what makes you attractive to the person that God has chosen for you.
oh, no doubt about that. You hit on something so special. Drop the defensiveness. The silent treatment thing where you're going to ignore them when they're in the room.
Yep.
Let's be more mature than that. Great communication. That's a given. You always hear that. And the fourth one on the intimacy list is kiss.
I'm for that.
Yeah.
It's funny too, because my wife, when she comes into the living room in the mornings, I'm already up and I have my coffee and I'm sitting in the chair. So I always get up to greet her with a kiss. Well, a lot of times she'll be taking her vitamins that have to dissolve, naturally. And a lot of times she'll put it in as she's coming down the hallway. And she's like, I still have it in my mouth. And she'll like turn it. So I'll get a cheek. But I usually, I go back and make up for it because I am also, and this is something I learned the hard way, is like when you come home at the end of the day, like to greet each other with a kiss is huge, because in those moments when maybe one or both of you have had a terrible day, it resets the focus of, okay, now the day and the world is behind us. We're at home together and here we are. Or it helps me to get a register of my wife, or for her to get a register of me in that moment, because I know in the kiss and in the moment, or the eye contact or the lack thereof, that she's feeling something that she needs to get out of her system. Because if I just come in and I grab her, and kiss and hug, and, she's not going to want, because I've done that and had to actually apologize for it because she wasn't in a place to receive it. And you don't ever want touch or anything that's supposed to be intimate to be taken in a negative light. So to just greet with a kiss, if you can make it as deep and as passionate as you want, but read the room. Come on, brothers.
Read the room.
Just know it. No, it's not always just like sometimes it's, hey babe, and then if she goes, hey, or hey, then okay, we're in the same space, or okay, let's take a moment. Let's go get some dinner and come back.
And can I say something? Because we're doing a podcast, I can. Everything like that does not have to lead to sex.
Thank you.
Can there be cuddling and kissing without it leading to sex?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And that's such a huge point, because as someone whose physical touch is my primary love language, it's important too to be able to say that to your spouse, to go, I'm not cuddling you in the hopes of, but also here's another point of that.
Afraid to say that though.
No.
You say stuff like that. I wouldn't say that.
Because
that would be just like, whoa.
Now, again,
you say that?
third
I'm
marriage,
cuddling with
you
but
learn
ain't
things the
leading
hard way.
nowhere.
No, well, I don't say it like that. It's an after the fact. Like if I cuddled and it didn't lead like to sex, and we just ended up going, we had our, wine or whiskey or tea or whatever, and then went to bed. Like, it's not a rejection. It's this was intimate. This was great. And then we can have the conversation later, and I can say, hey, just so you know, not all of my cuddles, I don't need it to lead to that. Now, if it leads to that and we both are there, wonderful. But again, read the room. Like sometimes you just because my family is incredibly busy. So if my wife is in show mode, or if I'm in game mode, or we've just got stuff going on, you need time to reconnect that doesn't lead to sex. Because again, sex is not intimacy, but it can be the most beautiful thing if intimacy is involved.
Oh, that may be one of the smartest things you've ever said.
All right. I had to learn that the hard way, but it's true.
All right, now we're going to talk about taking care of ourselves, getting enough sleep. This is something that I failed to do for 20 straight years, and it cost, well, I believe it was one of the causes of my autoimmune disease. Don't do this. I only slept 5 hours a night, and I thought that was enough. It is not enough. Between 7 and 9 hours is what you need. You've got to go to bed earlier.
Yeah. Well, and I'm learning, because I hate that 1:30 to 3 a.m. wake up when your body's just like, or your bladder said, hey, you're full. and then you can't go back to sleep. I hate it. So I'm trying right now, I'm in a little bit of my own sleep study to find out, should I just wait to go to bed later so that I stay asleep longer before the alarm goes off? Because again, I don't need the normal 8. Like I can function pretty well on 6.5 to 7, but I also need the sleep to count. Like it can't be 3 and 3 and 3, like, I mean, I need to really just get into it, and let the weird dreams take over. And if there's a God message in there, I can analyze that later. I don't be analyzing it at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Plan your meals for the week. I admire the people that do that. I get in the mood to cook something, I cook that, and thinking about 4 days from now just bums me out. But in order to be nutritionally really in line with what we're supposed to be eating, we're supposed to plan. Do you do that, Ace?
Not at all. I mean, especially like right now,
Okay.
we're in show mode week for the next several weeks. So my shopping is all grab and go. Like it's Hot Pockets and ramen and, heat and eats and, whatever. But even though as someone, so a question for you, even as someone who has a garden, like you don't like plant, ooh, I've got fresh so-and-so I could make and
Well,
then
no,
they'll be ready in 2 days or
yeah,
whatever.
I've got a little while for that yet. Yes, I will have more squash. Now, I've already had a few strawberries. They're beautiful. I would walk across the kitchen to show you one of mine. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're way before harvest right now. But once we have a harvest, I do eat more healthfully. I will have to admit. And my lettuce is looking beautiful. But what's so funny is you're supposed to harvest from the bottom up.
Right.
But it's so pretty. I just want to look at it a little bit longer. Isn't it
Okay.
terrible? Instead of eat it,
Yeah.
it needs to be eaten. That's why we grow it. So
No,
I'll
it's
get
good.
there. Drinking lots of water. I still need work on that. Exercising, good hygiene. That's a given. In order to be healthy, you've got to hang out with your friends. And here's something Ryan Seacrest and his cute host, Sissany. Oh,
Mm.
they do radio, in my opinion,
Hmm.
brilliance. And she was scheduling a phone call with a friend, and he thought that was the weirdest, most obnoxious thing ever. She's like, Ryan, when you get together with your friends, you talk about nothing. My husband comes home and I go, so what did Joe say? How's his wife? How's his life? He goes, I don't know, man. We're just hanging out. We don't talk about stuff. And Ryan's like, scheduling a phone call. She said, we're busy. We're young mothers. We
Mm.
don't have time. We have to have it on the calendar. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, calendar's huge. I mean, we have the dry erase one, which is a mess right now, but we're all like, usually we have to do either a Saturday morning or Sunday night check in, and everybody talks about their calendars because with, varying, rehearsal times and, times, we have extracurriculars or I have games that are in the evenings, whatever it is. So calendar is huge. And I actually saw this week that now they have, and I don't know that I would go this far, but I could see me going this far. In like smart homes, you have a display that's like a elongated television that all it is calendar. And so you can
I
go
want
and you
that.
sync all of your stuff through an app, and it functions, pretty much like a Google Calendar, but it's in a display that you can go
Oh, I
and
want
touch it.
that.
You can touch on the family member's name of what they have. You can give everybody their own color. Like as an organized digital guy, I'm like, all right, I could probably vibe on that.
I love that idea. Well, he's organized, he's brilliant, he's kind, he loves the Lord, he loves people. We're talking about our friend Turan Newell from Birmingham Mortgage Group.
Yeah, Turin does his job because here's the thing. He loves what he does. So therefore it makes it easy when he starts working with you and your family to get you in your dream home, your first home, to refi, whatever it is that you're trying to do it. And know that in Alabama and Florida is where you can definitely make sure you get into that dream home. So before you even go and knock on doors and, try to find that perfect house, find out what you qualify for and he'll find the program that works for you.
I love Psalm 91:1. When I was doing news talk radio, a Marine came back from Iraq and he had it memorized. And when he read it on the air, I kind of, lost my mind.
Hmm.
I just couldn't, but I found a devotional from Joseph Prince that put this into perspective in the most unique way. He talks about being out in the summer heat and, on trips where they go to Israel. It's very hot. And so they always get under a tree, and under the tree is, big change in temperature. There's protection, there's intimacy as the group gathers closely under the tree.
Hmm.
And he says that's Psalm 91, intimacy, covering. The scripture talks about how we're covered like a mother hen
Yeah.
covers the chicks. And that just really brought it home for me, that protection and intimacy we get in relationship to Christ.
Yeah. Well, and, with every day that we spend with God and every minute of that day, we're supposed to feel closer to Him by the end of that day, right? Like, even to go back to our conversation about our spouses, I could live in the same house with my wife, but if I'm not spending time with her, I'm not going to feel connected. I'm not going to know the mood she's in. I'm not going to know what's happening in her life. And I'm definitely not going to know her better every day if I'm not doing that. And it applies the same with God. To have that spiritual intimacy also gives you that spiritual peace, because there's nothing more important than being so close to God that you know the difference between His whisper and your scream. So
Ooh, that's good.
the
That's
voices
good.
in our head that are like, let's go do this. And God's like, no, don't go that way. Like,
Hey.
are we able to dissect, it's that, world to Jesus decoder ring that makes all the sense in the world, but you got to spend time with Him. And I would rather be close to Him, and people go, well, you missed out on a great party or a great event or this, and know that there was a reason I wasn't supposed to go, than to go just because everyone else, well, I've got friends who like me, Lord. Well, great. If that's what you need, and He will allow it until you get to a point where you're like, yeah, they all stabbed me in the back and they don't care about me. They never did. I mean, at some point that veil has to be lifted, which is why that spiritual intimacy gives us the visors to get there.
Pour that cup of Roxanne blend coffee when you're spending time with the Lord. I am so honored. Kay Pittman, the owner of My Brother's Cup, is hauling it all the way from Mississippi to be at our women's conference
Mm.
on April 27th, 8:30 in the morning, Temple Baptist Church. She will be serving up hot, ready, wonderful, the Roxanne blend the whole time we're there. And I'm super excited.
I'm not a woman. Can I come though?
Well, we've got men who are asking that question. I'm like, I can't imagine we toss out a man. I can't imagine that. So
What better way to learn about women than to come be around a bunch of them? Well, if you want to order yours today, if you can't get to the event, the great thing is easy to find. You can go to mybrotherscup.com or roxanneandace.com, where you can find out all about them and our friends at Birmingham Mortgage Group.
Roxanne and Ace Unlimited, where the Lord is so good to us, who He allows us to talk to and get to know. Tonight is just a super treat. Where do we even start? All of the movies he's been in decades. He's worked with Gwyneth Paltrow, Antonio Banderas, Jessica Lange, Bill Paxton. My husband went, oh my gosh, you're going to be talking to Jonah Hex. What on earth? And he was Houdini. And so it's super, super exciting, this career. We need 4 hours. We only have a few minutes, but we're so excited to welcome to our show, Johnathon Schaech. Welcome.
Hi. Well, thank you for having me.
Well, and I know that for many, they've the kind of a Sunday staple at our house when we're just wanting to chill. That thing you do is always our go-to jam. I know Roxanne and I are big Tom Hanks fans. As you go from project to project, I know I've heard where actors learn from the previous work they've done. So here we are, decades since. What did you learn from that project that you still apply with, like, even Blue Ridge, which is your current project?
Well, Tom gave us everything 1964 for That Thing You Do. So I learned all the history because he wanted us to have the feeling of that period.
Yeah.
And then we learned to play our instruments and sing the songs. So with everything that I do, I basically take all the history that I can behind it and learn everything that I can. And then I usually learn a physical, which is like, learning the guitar. But for Blue Ridge, it was, picking up a gun like a police officer, knowing my character was a Green Beret. So knowing all the ways that he would clear a house, it was different than a regular police officer, what he knew different and all that kind of stuff I worked on. And in the fight sequences, I had to fight. I have to fight in Blu-ray. So I had to get my kicks back up at 50, 52 years old. I was like, oh my God, I got to kick super high again. That's scary.
Your most memorable role, would you say, out of all these wonderful films and shows that you've done?
That thing you do, Jimmy. Yeah. I was just this morning, out here in Nashville, I just was with Rita Wilson and Tom Hanks. So I'm all glowingly that thing you do in Playtone Galaxy of Stars today.
Well, and I love that too, because Rita, she's released albums and she's done performances in Nashville, so I can see where they frequent that. And I think the sense from the movie is that there was a genuine friendship among you guys on and off the set. And even when the reunion, when you guys did the streaming, like there is a sense there that is real. Like a lot of people, I think that's what they love most about that film is you guys really do love and get along.
Yeah, we really do. You know, he's been one of my best friends for such a long time and huge supporter of me coming out here. And I get to see him because Rita became a singer-songwriter. When we made
Yeah.
that movie, I had no idea. But, Rita had a diagnosis of breast cancer. And when she came through that, she was like, what do I want to do? And she said, I want to be a singer-songwriter. And I remember Tom just going, okay. All right. So I constantly bump into these guys in Nashville, and he was so supportive of her, and she's just been killing it over the last, maybe 15 years now. Time
Yeah.
flies. Yeah.
And for you to be close is just really awesome. We watch him and think, is he in real life the wonderful person he appears to be? And what would your answer be to that?
Oh, he is. He's everything you think he is. He's wonderful. He's just a great human being.
Well, and I know as Rita was transparent, going through her breast cancer, you've been very transparent as you've come out about dyslexia, you and several other actors too. I mean, Whoopi Goldberg, Vince Neil from Motley Crue. Like there is this community now where it's not your weakness holding you back from your dreams, but you're allowing it to be the platform to challenge other people because it's so easy for us to get caught in the things that we can't do well.
Yeah, I think, that's a big thing that I want any student who suffers or struggles with their dyslexia to know there's a bunch of us out there that are just rock stars and doing great, and that they will do well as we did, just to believe in themselves and get through the struggles that are there.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate so much your kindness about your exes, including Christina Applegate. Just for you to give such affirming words, and then you're married to a superstar.
I know.
I mean, millions of people are watching The Influencer with your wife, Julie Solomon. How did the two of you meet?
We met here in Nashville, Tennessee at the Make-A-Wish charity
Oh,
waiting for wishes. And I
oh,
would come here because I became really good friends with Rascal Flatts, Jada Marcus. And he would invite me out every year, and I'd come out to Nashville, Tennessee, I think over 15 years. So I just kept coming back. And then one of the years, about 10 years, 11 years ago, I met Julie there, and
It's all it took. Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
I made a wish and it came true.
Right. That's awesome. Well, and a lot of people in LA probably said, you're crazy. There's no way you won't get work. You won't be, in the center of the hub of what's going on. But for you, it really was all about family.
Yeah. I literally left everything behind in Hollywood, and I moved to Nashville, Tennessee. I left my representation. I let everything behind, all my connections. And I was telling Tom today, I was like, first you came out for lunch, and then I got a phone call from Gary Wheeler, and he said, I want to hire you for a film that I want to do about a guy who leaves Los Angeles, moves to a small town to be closer to his family. That was the movie Blue Ridge. And I was like, that's a great role, man. I could totally play that. My father was called me a police officer. I fit right in. And we made that movie just before the pandemic. And then right after the pandemic, they called me up and said, Jonathan, would we like to make this into a television series? Would you like to be part of it? And I was like, yeah. So we shot the first season of Blue Ridge last year, and we're going to start the second season in September. So leaving everything behind, going into the unknown.
Yeah.
Fitness regimen. I have to ask about that. My goodness gracious, please tell us you work out, what, 2 hours a day?
So one of the episodes of Blue Ridge, my dear friend Michael O'Hearn came out, and Michael O'Hearn is a three-time Mr. Universe. He was an American Gladiator, but we've been friends for 30 some years. And I said, Mike, could you could I actually? I think I would love to compete in a bodybuilding contest. And he was like, yeah, John, you'd probably win. And I was like, really? So right after filming, because of the strike was hitting, I was like, I can't just sit around. And I got ready in 6 weeks for Mr. Tennessee here, and I went out there for the over 50 and I won.
Wow.
That's
Well,
awesome.
and you kind of have this history of winning contests that people go, hey, you should enter that, because that's how you got into acting.
Well, kind of. I won the Tom Cruise lookalike contest. Is that what you're talking about?
Well,
it was a dance contest.
okay.
I don't remember the exact title of the contest, but I went out and I won. I did I did a dance on a chair. What was it? Leave your hat on. What's his name? Joe Cocker.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did that and I won a lot of money, and it gave me at least some money to go out to California. And then when I was out there, I met some very influential people, and it was just kind of like kismet. It didn't happen like overnight, but I met the right people, and then I met my acting coach, Roy London, and then he took me under his wing and made sure I was ready to take on the world.
So let's go back to the 1990s when you dated Ellen DeGeneres.
Oh, well, I didn't date her. I was Ellen DeGeneres's beard. So we were very good friends. We would go to a place called Esalen with our manager, and she had her television show, which was the comedy, the sitcom, and they said, listen, Jonathan, we would like you to pretend, to be Ellen's boyfriend, because the world won't accept her for who she is. So, and so I did that. I was her friend on the red carpet, and we kissed and pretended, and
You even kissed.
she kissed me. Never forget when she did that. I was like, oh, we're really doing this.
So as we've seen the actor side, let's talk about Jonathan the dad, because like you're active in your kids' lives, and for those who follow you on Instagram and social media, like you were a very active father. I mean, your house, like I want to come hang out at your house. Like it's just that kind of family environment that I think we all try to, I know as a dad, I try to aspire to have the fun household. What is the dad side of you like?
Wow. I just want to be present for my children. I just want to be as there in the moment with them as I possibly can be. Yeah. And I did everything so that I could leave all the things that were causing chaos in my soul. I let all those things go so that I could be present for my children. And that's all I can do. I mean, I help my son with coaching teams, and I just try to be as present. And since I'm not always around, if I go to film, I try to be as present as I can when I'm with them. And that's body, mind, and spirit, the whole thing, just not there on my phone. I try to be present with them. Yeah.
Well, acting is a really brutal business. It's tough. What lesson have you gotten from being in the trenches in an industry that can really choke the life out of you? I mean, it's tough.
I realized I was thinking about the Ellen recently, and I kept thinking, like, what was the thing that made me be okay with that? And it was because of my faith, because I knew it was the right thing to do. I knew that she needed someone to do that, and I was strong enough and willing to do that. It was the unknown. I've always walked into the unknown and been okay with whatever comes out because I had the faith to get through it.
Yeah. So talk about that a little bit too, because I know as people, especially as they watch Blue Ridge, this is much more of a family oriented show than I think anything else that you've done prior. So for that, how much of you, I mean, because, there's that well, this character is me. You know, you hear that a lot from actors, like this was an easy role because it's me being me. But there's elements of that where you're like, I believe he's this way. So in your faith, how much do you get to bring that to the set? How much do you get to bring that into this character?
Well, this character is unique that my father was Baltimore City police officer for 36 years. My character is a very old school type police officer. He's a sheriff in a small town, and he polices like my father used to police on the beat. So my father would do everything through his faith, and he was, he was a great cop for everyone there. So I bring all those elements to it, and I'm an executive producer of the show, so I get to have a lot of input on what we're putting out there and who we're going to bring on the show and how the set's going to be run. Because the most important thing I felt was that I wanted to create a world where it was safe for actors. It was safe for them to explore, to try new things and to be creative. And my showrunner Gary Wheeler is completely like that. We try to make the set as lovable as I felt that that thing you do was the set there.
Oh.
Like I still wish I was on that set. I want people to have that experience. All the good things that Hollywood, all the good things. There's not everything in Hollywood's a good thing, but I try to bring all those good things so that what you see and watch, you realize there's a goodness to it. So by the end of it, you realize there's hope in this world, and we're entertained throughout it all. And I think that's what we really wanted to accomplish with Blue Ridge.
Where does the show shoot?
Shoots in Charlotte, North Carolina. I get to come home in the week.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, it's a perfect job. It's really amazing.
Well, I wanted to ask that for those that grew up on that thing you do, based on your own interpretation of Jimmy, what do you think, where do you think he would be in 2024?
When I moved out here, one of the producers of That Thing You Do said, "Oh yeah, Jimmy's in Nashville."
Excellent.
So I kept thinking, like, Jimmy, he's a songwriter, so he likes those moody, lyrical stuff. So he probably got into some country music and got shot down.
Yeah,
that's heard him and tried a country album. It didn't work.
Right. Well, the TV show is called Blue Ridge. You can actually watch the movie on Amazon Prime. And then, of course, Cowboy Way Channel at 8 Eastern on Sunday night is when it airs. And Johnathon Schaech has been our guest. Thanks so much for your time, man. And just keep doing what you're doing.
You keep doing that thing you do, too.
That's right.
Goes right back to that. What's going on?
It's infectious. It's in our head.
So as we close, I'm obsessed with Sally Orange. That is her real name, and she's the cutest.
Yeah.
She has done 80 marathons raising money for charity. She was in the U.S. military and had problems with anxiety and depression. And that is her platform as she runs all these marathons all around the world, crying in one of them because she had run so far for so many days straight, totally exhausted. But when I say she's an orange, she's dressed as a giant orange.
Yes.
And then she was a kiwi, a banana, a jackfruit. I don't know what a jackfruit looks like. Do you?
Definitely not in costume format, for sure.
But anyway, she's adorable. And this platform has really helped a lot of people. They're like, why are you doing this? She says, I was very anxiety ridden and running just helps me. And I want to bring awareness that there is hope when you suffer from anxiety and depression.
Well, of course, before we let you go, we always like to check in on each other's vibes. So, Roxanne, what are you vibing on this week?
Craig Rochelle. I know you love him as well. Some of the best books you will ever read. His latest is called Think Ahead. I ordered it a month and a half ago, and it got lost somewhere in the Amazon land.
Yeah.
Finally got to me. 7 decisions you can make today for the God-honoring life you want tomorrow. And basically, it's very convicting because it's the decisions you make today determine what direction your life is going in. And that little thing you think, I'll skip that. Why do I need to do that? I don't want to talk to that person. I don't feel like forgiving somebody today. It affects your future. And I know that sounds simplistic.
Right.
He's a lot deeper in the book, but it's really good if you want to get your life on a great direction.
That's awesome. Well, you and I clearly have been doing a lot of reading because the book Godsend, Michael Moynia is the author. I got a chance to hear him speak this week, so I had to get the book because my family and I were in the midst of a church plant right now. And so a lot of what Michael is talking about, because this is the handbook for new Christian communities. So if you're a church plant or you're trying to grow your church or trying to get your small groups to just, and the one takeaway that I really loved was, and it even ties in with your comment from your book as well, is thinking big picture. Like what is the end goal? And if you keep that end goal, with every step you take, you wake up 5-10 years from now and you've accomplished that. You've grown the community within your church, but you've grown the community outside of it as well. You've, expanded, people's knowledge of not only who and what you stand for, but then, people coming to church that maybe never went before. So it's called Godsend, and definitely something that now we've added to your summer reading as you start to plan for whatever you need. Well, we love getting a chance to hang out with you. So like, subscribe, follow, so that way you don't miss out on future episodes. Of course, Johnathon Schaech, thanks for his time this week. He was amazing. And of course, you can find out more about us at RoxanneandAce.com. Have a great weekend, Roxanne. I love you.
I love you bunches.
You've been listening to Roxanne and Ace Unlimited. To make sure you don't miss future shows, you can subscribe anywhere you like to podcast and catch up on anything you've missed. Find out more at RoxanneandAce.com. Roxanne and Ace Unlimited is a production of Spacebird Media.